Okay.
All right, thank you. As y'all know, my name is Steve Simonsen. I am a lawyer, and I've been practicing law up here in Montgomery County since 1993, really. I started out in bankruptcy, and then in '95, I entered into a more general practice. I ran for judge about 12 years ago against Mike Mays. Learned a lot, lost, and then since then, essentially, I've been active in Republican Party politics. Currently, I'm the parliamentarian at many of the conventions, and I'm also the legal counsel for the party. I have 4 children. I've been married since 1982, and my wife and I own a swim club out in Montgomery, and that's what she does. And I, of course, practice law. My oldest son, after a 4-year stint in the Army, he's fixing to go into A&M in the spring, and he's also fixing to make me a granddad. And my second son got out of 4 years with the Air Force, and he is currently in Colorado in the Reserve and going to school at Colorado State, looking for an engineering degree. My daughter is in Finland doing a foreign exchange student, and I have one son left at home. He's a sophomore, and he's very active in debate, which he likes.
Sophomore in high school?
Yes. And for me, I graduated from Cy-Fair High School and went into the Marine Corps, and was in the Marine Corps after, not immediately, but after fiddling around for a couple of years. I went to the Marine Corps for 4 years and got out as a sergeant and went back to school. And over a period of time, I finally graduated from Texas Lutheran, got married, and had a couple of kids on the way. And then back in 1990, I went to law school and became a lawyer. My work history is essentially, I've worked in a variety of jobs, everything from, working cattle and breaking horses to superintendent of a construction company, vice president, and of course the law. I've been doing the law for about 20 years now. I think that I am the best person for this job because I have a fairly broad range of experience. I also understand how the judicial mind works, okay? And that would be important when in crafting legislation. And I also understand how laws can be misinterpreted by a lot of folks, as we have seen in the last, count the number of years, going back to the Great Depression in my opinion. But I think I have a lot of common sense, and I also am a person who can go up there and get things done, as opposed to someone who perhaps doesn't have quite the experience dealing with bureaucracies and lobbyists and that sort of thing. So I'm ready if y'all are.
Okay. All right. So at this point, we'll do 45 minutes worth of questions and just go around the table. And Pat, if you want to kick it off.
Our first part is, how much time have you actually spent in Austin?
Actually in Austin, very little.
Okay.
As far as lobbying,
Well,
Testifying.
just testifying, going
whatever.
to attending hearings, supporting your representative or your senator.
no, most of my action has been on the local level.
Okay, and why so late filing for this position?
My father recently died. He got sick, really sick, in August, and I had been going up there every weekend. And so when Brandon said, well, I'm running for a different position, at that point I thought, well, I need to get in there and file. And then, that came up, and I spent every weekend up there. And then he passed away right before Thanksgiving. And, well, he lived a good life, and he's in heaven now, so, but that's why I was late. And so after Thanksgiving, I came back, and as things got back to normal, I realized, well, this is something I need to do.
Is this particular position has been the one that you thought would be the best one to get in? Rather than something local or?
Rather than, for instance, running for county judge or
Oh,
something
Yeah.
like
for
that.
whatever you want to
Starting-
accomplish.
Yeah. I think this position probably appeals to me right now at this point in time, because I think that Texas is on the edge of going one way or another, and I would like to be up there affecting that process. It's quite apparent to me that the Democrats are making a charge, and they're gonna continue to be doing that, and I think you need some good, strong Republicans up there to further an agenda which includes, good climate for business, lower taxes, more states' rights, less federal rights, and doing something that makes, hopefully we can get the attention of the federal government to change what they're doing up there.
2016.
Yes.
Okay, just a quick math clarification first. You've been working in Conroe 20 years, but you only been voting for 12 years. Were you living
Here in
somewhere else?
Conroe. Yeah, I lived down in Harris County for, we
Okay.
didn't move up here until 2001.
I got you, okay. As Texas voters, we, as of late, have had to worry about things that we never thought we'd have to worry about, things that we shouldn't have to worry about, a lot of global things, a lot of excessive federal things. One of them is ALAC, American Law for American Court. Are you familiar with that?
Mm-mm.
Well, that's a pretty big issue in the conservative community. And what it means is that American courts should, not surprisingly, use American law. But there are a lot of cases, quite a few cases, where American courts, including Texas courts, have based their rulings on international law or Sharia law. And in fact, Oklahoma even passed an ALAC law that was overturned by the Supreme Court. Texans have tried several times to get an ALAC law put in.
Blocked by Republicans.
Yeah, blocked by Republicans. So, although it seems common sense, there's a lot of opposition to doing that. Would you promote or sponsor or introduce some legislation that would require Texas courts and American courts to use Texas and American law?
I wouldn't have a problem. I can't imagine a situation where I think it would be okay to use
Confusing, isn't it?
Sharia law or non-American law here, particularly on the state level. Now, maybe if we're talking about federal stuff, that's something that, of course, I wouldn't be involved in.
Yeah.
But
how would a federal court need to be using any other law?
well, I can't. I can't feature that, but sometimes they have to interpret treaties and things like that, and that parts of the federal law are puzzling to me in those areas. The other areas where you might see it is maritime law. There's quite a few conventions that are traditional for maritime law that apply all over the world that don't necessarily apply here in the United States.
Yeah, we're just as concerned at the local level to county,
Right.
that they could infiltrate at that level. We've seen it, there's instances across the country, a lot of it up in the Northeast.
Well, I would have a
And
big
in Richardson,
problem.
Texas,
Mhm.
where they
Really?
used Sharia law, where a man beat his daughter to death. And they used Sharia law, which means he had the right to do it,
To get off.
to get off.
Yeah, I can't,
But that's the reason why it's important to us.
yeah, and that would be important to me because I don't see that as being, if you're gonna live here, that means you're gonna become an American and a Texan, and you're gonna live under our laws, not.
So whoever we send to Austin needs to be behind. Not just that, there are a lot of other issues like that,
Mm-hmm.
and needs to get behind and support stuff like that.
And without a law, anything's open.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, that's true, that's true. Yep.
they,
Okay, spent a lot of time thinking about some of your answers to what will your top 3 priorities be. For one, to C, finding ways to make water available without spending taxpayer dollars. Now, there's many ways to spend taxpayer dollars. San Jacinto River Authority has levied a fee on the water bill, on my water bill. And okay, so that's a fee, but it's taxpayer dollars because I'm a taxpayer and it's coming out of my dollars pocket. So how are you going to provide water without spending taxpayer dollars?
Well, when I thought about that, what I'm thinking of, for instance, is if you live on the lake, during the drought, the city of Houston was pumping water out every month, and to me, it would seem that we could set up a system where they get their shot, they get their water, and we send them water perhaps down to Lake Houston as sort of a holding area. And then when the lake drops below a certain level, that's that. Which would conserve water for us. I mean, that had a huge impact on this economy up here.
Well, there are already agreements in place as to what they can draw and all that sort of stuff, and I think we're left holding the bag.
Well, and to my mind, those agreements need to be looked at and renegotiated, because,
Of course, the lake exists for that purpose, to serve Houston and shortly to serve the county for
Yes.
water, other than around the lake.
and I understand that, but also, like I say, to me, it's not fair to sit there and say, well, I don't need that water, and essentially not tap it for, well, the lake came in 1973, and they essentially haven't tapped it for that long. And then all of a sudden now they're out there. Now, that's gonna be a long process to get that done, but I think that's something that we need to start looking at. I think there are other ways to handle the water problem. It makes no sense to me to be drawing the lake down if they're still letting everybody run their sprinklers down in Harris County without regard to anything like that.
Okay, and on B, you said one of your goals is keeping.
We're out. Sorry, come back around.
One complaint a lot of people in Texas have is about the fact that the state gets a large amount of its funding from property tax. And of course, being a conservative state, not entirely, but it's definitely a force in our state at the moment. Property rights are very important. And some even consider the fact that there is a property tax means we don't really own our land, because the minute we don't pay, we lose it. So my question is, as a legislator, would you work, when additional funds are needed, would it be an increase in property tax? Would you want to replace or largely replace property taxes with an alternate source, whether it be sales tax or an increase in franchise tax? Or what about the franchise tax, where it actually is an income tax only on businesses, and for those of us that have S corporation, it's actually on us personally. Right. So my question is, what do you see you being able or wanting to do with regard to the taxes in Texas from the state level?
I would prefer to have a tax structure that is based on fees. You pay for what, if you want something, you pay for it. And that would be...
Would that be an increase in gas taxes, for instance?
If necessary, yes. To me, if you're gonna take advantage of the roads in the state of Texas, you should pay for them.
Or toll roads?
I prefer the gas tax, to be honest, rather than toll roads.
Okay.
Now probably if I had one of the little things on my car and could zip through, I might change my mind on that. But, the problem about toll roads that I have never liked is you go out, you pay an enormous amount of money for years and years and years, and when they built the Hardy Street toll road, they said, as soon as it's paid for, we'll take the toll off.
Well, now locally, it's actually going to be a private business. It'll never end, because that's a revenue generating stream for a company that builds the roads.
And see, I disagree with that. My feeling is, once the taxpayers have paid for it, then, you know, maybe we continue to charge fees for upkeep, but once it's paid for, you know, it's paid for.
So would you want to replace all property taxes with additional fees, or half, or what? And what about the franchise tax?
Hadn't really considered how much I would want to take off on the property taxes.
Uh-huh.
I can understand why we have property taxes, but,
Would you
it's like-
consider eliminating the right to foreclose on taxes? That basically it would go with the property, which means it would have to get paid when it's sold.
Sooner or later, yeah. I think that, I feel that way very strongly about homesteads.
Uh-huh.
Perhaps not so much commercial property.
Okay, like a homestead exemption.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Since 9/11, we've seen the federal government come in and impose a lot of additional security. This is true at the airports. It's true of your internet connection monitoring, your cell phone connection for monitoring. And recently there's an article about them searching all cars crossing the ferry connection at Galveston.
I just crossed there.
Were you searched?
First-hand knowledge.
No, I was not searched, but they certainly had a big sign out there that said all cars are subject. I
Right.
was surprised at that.
Yeah.
But it's federal, or was it state, or what? You know? Did it say on the sign?
It did not say, but
My
those are
goodness.
state workers.
Right.
Well, Homeland Security was set up at a checkpoint down there,
Yeah.
and according to this article.
Right. So what are your thoughts about that? I mean, is that a good thing to keep us safe? Is that something that is, how do you strike the balance there?
Or legislation to prevent any state law enforcement from enforcing any of that stuff. Let the feds have to put people there.
We've seen how well they've done with the border.
And with the TSA.
Yeah. To me, the balancing comes in as, well, how effective is this going to be? You know?
Oh, we know that. None.
Exactly. I mean, I'll give you for example. We have security over the courthouse
Yeah.
that is supposed to be designed to prevent anything from happening, and no way. There's no way. Now, I go down to the federal courthouse an awful lot. Their security is better, okay? But it's still very ineffective. I mean, they search everybody that comes through. You go through this, and at least here at the local level, I mean, I could have bombs, everything in there if I wanted to. I mean, I certainly wouldn't do that, but it's that leaky. At the federal level, they're a little better, but you know, a smart guy could figure out lots of ways around it. So I think if we're going to put those kind of things in place, it needs to be as unobtrusive as possible, okay, and it needs to be effective. I mean, there's no point in having, you know, Joe Smuckatelli over here doing a search for bombs. You know, get a bomb sniffing dog out there that can go by the cars. All right, that's, you know, rather than have somebody pawing through your personal possessions and everything. That's kind of how I feel about that.
Okay.
What do you know about Agenda 21, and your opinion of it?
Nothing. What is it?
It was started back in the early 70s. It's a UN thing that they've started, wanting to have great control over cities, counties, states, governments, the whole thing.
Property rights.
Property rights.
Oh.
They basically think we're
Lifestyles.
consuming too much of the earth. So they
Global
want us all
Footprint, sustainability.
footprints. You don't want us all to live like New York City,
You know
in
who
high
the grandfather of
rises.
that was?
Let the farmland return to nature.
One of the grandfathers.
A primary, he was the godfather.
H.W.?
No,
No.
George
George
Mitchell.
Mitchell.
No, yeah.
And he wrote a book
Really?
about it. Yeah, absolutely. He wrote a book about called sustainability. Probably heard that word. being
Oh, yeah,
thrown around.
yeah.
Corporations.
Well,
Don't you think we're ruining our planet?
no. I mean, if we're gonna get into that, well, let's talk about 700 million Indians and, 3 billion Chinese.
Well, basically-
Well, shouldn't they get all the land back?
Basically, I think we're just trying to see if
Oh,
it starts coming into the state of Texas, which it has, you need to be up to date on it and be in a position to fight it.
Yeah.
It's in the bylaws of the township, sustainability. And it's also coming in through HGAC.
Right.
If you're familiar with
Yes.
HGAC.
There's actually tax dollars being used to promote the Agenda 21, federal and through
Lots
HGAC,
of
some
tax
local.
Yeah, if you look at the woodlands in general, you know how the smaller lots, it's not the big
Mhm.
1 acre lots.
Right.
That's Mitchell's.
That's it. Okay.
But anyway, we should just
Kinda
get
fits.
familiar with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mitchellism.
What do you know about Seascope?
I have heard of it. I'm not that familiar with it, though. I recently, a friend of mine, Jay Wright, I was talking to him, and he said, you ought to read this book by Mark Levin. And so
Yeah.
I've started reading that. But specifically Seascope, I'm not sure. I don't know what that stands for.
Have you heard of Obama's Common Core curriculum?
Mm-hmm.
It's curriculum development, and what they're doing, I think you said in your opening that you hadn't been happy with federal government going back to the Depression, and that's pretty close to when all this started, progressivism. Actually goes back just a tad further.
Yeah,
to
Woodrow Wilson.
Right, yeah.
And Teddy Roosevelt
Mhm.
even, but, and it's been a slow drip process until this last administration came in. So it's like, Wilson went to school in Germany with all the Nazis and studied under Hegel,
Right.
and that's where the concept came from. Fortunately, over the period of time, our process has been evolutionary rather than revolutionary,
Mhm.
what happened with Germany. But now it's come, the chickens have come home to roost, so that's a concern and something that, you probably wanna definitely get your arms around. But Common Core is teaching progressivism. Seascope, actually, that's coming in from the national level, not coming in here. We've had that, but it's just called Seascope over the last 6 years.
Mhm.
And if you Google